Europe is shaking. Germany is struggling with its industry. France is engulfed in protests. Italy is drowning in public debt. And in the north, a cold country is experiencing a double-digit unemployment rate. The construction industry is contracting. Exports to Russia have nearly disappeared, yet they are still the happiest country in the world, Finland. A country that makes the definition of the crisis in Europe unusual. Do they have any secrets? Or have they simply built a society strong enough to withstand 10% unemployment without collapsing? In this video, we will dissect that paradox. And perhaps the lesson here is not about growth, but in how a country faces instability. Let's get started. Let's pause Helsinki for a moment. Look at the bigger picture. Europe at this moment resembles an old ship in a stormy sea, not sinking, but no longer gliding with the same confidence as 2 decades ago. Germany, the industrial leader of the continent. An engineer in the Ruhr region shared, "We used to worry about a labor shortage. Now worried about a lack of orders, German industrial production has sharply decreased compared to before the pandemic. Exports are slowing down. Energy prices surged after cutting off Russian gas, at times reaching levels many times higher than the historical average. Imagine, a steel mill has to pay an electricity bill equivalent to the cost of building an entirely new production line. No one invests in such circumstances. What about France? Not the factory is silent, but the streets are noisy. Pension protests. The strike is prolonged. Public debt has exceeded 110% of GDP. This means that for every €1 the economy generates, the government is shouldering more than €1 in debt. And Italy? Not much better either. Public debt over 140% of GDP. That figure sounds dry. But if you convert it, it's like a family earning €100,000 a year that is in debt of €140,000, not to mention the rising interest rates. Do you sleep well? The European welfare model, once a post-war pride, is under pressure from all sides. The population is aging as fast as a countdown clock. Interest rates are rising after a period of cheap money. Defense costs rise as geopolitics heat up. And here's something few people mention. This system was designed for periods of stable growth, not for a series of cascading shocks like COVID, war, inflation, and energy restructuring all at once. An economist in Brussels expressed, "We still call this a cyclical adjustment, but never have so many cycles converged at the same time." Ironically, the European Union excels at regulating the curvature of bananas, but struggles to manage the curve of public debt. The question is, if Germany is slowing down, France is under stress, and Italy is heavily in debt, is the European model fracturing from within? Or is this just a storm that the old continent will overcome again? And amidst all that noise, there is a cold country that hardly raises its voice. Finland. Unemployment over 10%. Exports to Russia have nearly disappeared. The construction industry is shrinking. But there are no scenes of streets ablaze. What makes them different? Are they truly stable? Or just hiding a fever beneath the surface? In the next part, we will delve into the inner workings of Finland, where a minor crisis is unfolding, and see why they are still staying afloat. If you enjoy analyses that don't shy away from facts and don't blindly accept official statements, consider following the channel. We have many things to dissect. And believe me, the story of Finland has just begun. We just looked at the picture of all of Europe. Now back to Finland. Not a paradise, just a small economy truly experiencing a shock. And the first shock came from within. At one point, 10% of the Finnish workforce relied on construction. For every 10 people working, 1 person works in this industry. Revenue once increased by 67% in just a decade. Sounds like a Nordic success story. Orderly, efficient, and unassuming. Then the cheap money ended. Interest rates from 0% to 4.5%. Home loan interest rates have quadrupled in less than 2 years. A broker in Espoo shared that customers haven't disappeared. They just stand still, as if someone pressed the pause button. Building permits have fallen to their lowest level in decades. Construction companies are starting to shut down. Imagine a construction site that used to be bustling with 200 workers, now only a few guards watching over the unfinished concrete frame. Not a chaotic kind of crisis. It's just silence. The interesting thing is that Finland is no different from the US, no different from Germany in this regard. They are also addicted to low interest rates. They also believe that real estate only goes up. The difference lies in the reaction. No loud blame scene, just a dry acceptance. But construction is not the only blow. Finland has a border longer than 1,300 kilometers with Russia. Before 2022, nearly 1/3 of their energy came from the east. Gas, electricity, crude oil. A paper mill manager in the east recounted, "We were used to a stable, affordable energy supply. Then one day, it was no more." In just a few years, the number of Finnish companies exporting to Russia decreased from 2,000 to around 100. Imagine 1,900 business doors closing. The border towns that once thrived on trade and tourism are now quiet. A small hotel owner in Lappeenranta said, "There used to be fully booked weekends. Now I know the name of each guest because there are so few of them." Finland has chosen to strengthen security and deepen integration with the West. That choice has its reasons. But like all geopolitical choices, it comes with a cost. Security is not free. That saying sounds simple, but the bill is very specific. And when you lose both the low-cost energy source and the export market, while interest rates rise, that's 3 consecutive blows to an economy of just over 5 million people. But what worries many middle-aged people here is not today's unemployment figure, but rather the question of tomorrow. Less than half of international technology experts in Finland want to stay long-term. Work permits are decreasing. A 2-year-old programmer in Helsinki said frankly, "The quality of life is very good, but career opportunities are no longer as abundant as before. I am considering Switzerland." This is the paradox. Finland invests heavily in education, innovation, and the technology ecosystem. But when growth slows down, the most talented individuals have more choices than anyone else. And do you find this story familiar? You've seen that in Detroit, in northern England, in the industrial region of France. When the younger generation began to leave, it was not an immediate crisis. It is a silent crack in the foundation. And there is a subtle irony here. The welfare system makes people feel safe, but that very safety sometimes reduces the competitive drive. And you? What do you think? Should a society prioritize stability or growth? Would you choose to sleep well with 2% growth, or accept instability to achieve 4%? It can be seen that Finland is facing 3 pressures at the same time: the construction bubble deflating, the energy and trade shock, the outflow of human resources. Not insignificant at all, just handled in a less dramatic way. And this is when the story gets interesting, because even though those blows were real, the data shows something strange. Employment is still rising, while unemployment is also increasing. Sounds absurd? In the next part, we will decode that paradox, and you will see why sometimes numbers do not tell the whole story. If you like straightforward analysis, neither sugar-coated nor overly pessimistic, you can follow the channel to not miss the upcoming parts. Believe me, Finland still has one more card to play. Now comes the most interesting part. The number that shocks many. Unemployment over 10%. But at the same time, the number of people employed in Finland is higher than before 2019. Sounds like 2 things that cannot coexist. Someone in Helsinki working in logistics said, "The newspapers say it's a crisis, but my warehouse is still hiring. So what's going on?" First of all, it is important to understand one thing. Unemployment does not mean that no one has a job. In labor statistics, unemployment is defined as not having a job but actively seeking one. And if you are not looking for a job, you are not counted. This is a small detail but extremely important. Imagine a town with 100 people. 60 people are working. 10 people are looking for a job. 30 people are not looking for work. The unemployment rate is 10 out of 70, not 10 out of 100. Now, If 20 people in the group of 30 decide to start looking for a job, the unemployment rate skyrockets, even though no one has been laid off yet. That is exactly what is happening in Finland. In the past 3 years, Finland's working-age population has increased by about 46,000 people. With a country of just over 5 million people, that number is equivalent to a medium-sized town suddenly appearing with tens of thousands of people wanting to join the labor market. About 44% of the increase in unemployment is related to new immigrant workers. They come to look for work. Immediately, they are counted as part of the workforce. If they haven't found a job immediately, they are counted as unemployed. A recruiter in Tampere said, "We are receiving more applications than before, but the skills don't always match." So what is happening is not a job collapse, but it's about expanding the playing field faster than the number of empty seats. Look at it this way. If 10,000 new people enter the market, 5,000 people found jobs. 5,000 people have not found jobs yet. Result? The number of employed people has increased. The number of unemployed people is also increasing. It's like you are expanding the banquet table. More guests are sitting at the table. But there are also more people standing and waiting. This is not a party falling apart. It's just a rhythm adjustment. The irony is, the same figure of 10%, in one country it's a transition, in another country it's a crisis, and the media often prefers the second one. It sells better. Now, I want to ask you, if the workforce increases because many people want to participate, is that a bad sign or a sign of a society still believing in opportunity? If immigration increases short-term unemployment but helps maintain the long-term labor force, which way do you lean? This is not a labor collapse crisis. This is a transition crisis. And the difference between these two concepts can determine how a society reacts, in panic or with patience. In the next section, we will delve into what truly makes Finland different. Why do the people here not get upset when they see the 10% figure? Could it be that they are too calm, or are they protected by a system strong enough not to fear the numbers? We still have one more important piece of the puzzle ahead, and that is the part that makes this story worth pondering. Double-digit unemployment. Exports are losing momentum. The construction industry is slowing down. In many other places, that is a recipe for social unrest. But in Finland, no scenes of the square packed with people shouting. There is no wave of panic on primetime television. Why? The answer does not lie in a lenient mentality. It lies in the social structure. In many economies, losing a job triggers a domino effect. Loss of salary, lost health insurance, pressure of rent, worrying about the children. In Finland, that domino chain is shorter. Healthcare is a universal right, not tied to an employment contract. Unemployment benefits can last for several months, even over a year, depending on the conditions. Basic education is free. A 2-year-old man in Turku, who used to work in construction, said, "I am not happy about losing my job, but I don't lose sleep over the money for my wife's medicine." That statement sounds simple, but it explains a lot. When basic needs are met, emotional responses will be different. You might be annoyed, but you are not cornered. Try putting yourself in that situation, and you'll understand. If you knew that even if the company closed, your family would still have medical care and school for your child, how would you react? Of course, this system is not free. High taxes, high public spending, but in return, society gains something intangible: collective psychological stability. One of the most notable differences in Finland is the housing first policy. The principle is very simple. Housing is not a reward for those who are stable. It is a condition for people to stabilize. Thanks to that approach, the number of people without fixed housing in Finland has decreased significantly over the years, while many major European cities are struggling with the opposite situation. A social worker in Helsinki told me, "We give them the keys first, then we talk about employment." It sounds contrary to the mindset of being self-sufficient first, but data shows that when people have a roof over their heads, their ability to find jobs and reintegrate is significantly higher. While Berlin struggles with rising rental prices, London sees housing costs far exceeding the average income. Finland maintains a relatively stable market. Imagine, if you lose your job at 50, but still keep your apartment, you will have time to think and adjust, not having to race for survival every day. The message here is very clear. You might lose your job, but you don't lose your dignity. But policy is not everything. There is a softer factor, hard to measure in GDP. The Finns call it sisu, not blind optimism, not a positive slogan. Sisu is calm endurance. It is the act of continuing to walk when it is dark and cold. And if you have ever lived through a financial crisis, technological change, or industry restructuring, you understand that the economic cycle is like the tide. It goes up, it goes down. In many places, when bad numbers appear, the first reaction is to blame. In Finland, the usual response is to wait and adjust. Perhaps they are not happy because everything is always good. They are happy because they do not expect everything to always be good. Of course, this does not mean there are no worries. People are still discussing public debt, the future of their children and grandchildren, and long-term competitiveness. But the difference lies in the pace of the response. No panic, don't ignore, just patience. So, the question for you is, if a society is designed to absorb shocks rather than amplify them, is that wisdom, or the price paid in slow growth? In the next part, we will look at the downside of this model, where high taxes, labor incentives, and investment flows pose difficult questions. At this point, if you only look at stability in sisu, you might think Finland has found the perfect formula. But no, there is no free paradise. A strong welfare system does not come naturally. Income tax in Finland can exceed 50% for high-income groups. Imagine you earn 100 euros. After taxes and contributions, the remaining amount is no longer 100. For middle-aged people with families, that might be acceptable. For ambitious young people, the story is different. In some cases, the net income after starting work, after taxes and losing benefits, increases only slightly compared to when they were not working. This is not common for everyone, but it exists. This is a difficult problem. You want to protect the disadvantaged, but if the design is not careful, you blur the motivation to strive. Excessive stability sometimes resembles a comfortable sofa, comfortable, but it doesn't encourage you to get up and run further. As mentioned, less than half of international tech experts want to stay long-term. They are not leaving because of poor quality of life. They leave for faster growth opportunities elsewhere. This is not a mass exodus, but it is a steady flow. And for a small country, each person who leaves is like losing a link in the chain of future growth. Finland's recent growth forecast is around a very low level, below 1%. Sounds not scary. But imagine driving on the highway, moving just a meter at a time. You don't collide, but you also don't reach the destination quickly. And here's the blunt truth. You can't grow just by positive vibes. The system can absorb shocks, but it can also slow down the rebound speed. If it were you, which model would you choose? A society that grows quickly but is prone to instability, or a stable society that accepts moderate speed? Finland may be floating on the surface, but the long-term question is, are they moving forward? In the final part, we will look at the bigger lesson, not just for Europe, but for the entire West as it enters the AI era and new upheavals. If you want to continue dissecting the economic models behind the flashy headlines, you know what you need to do. And trust me, the conclusion will not simply be praise or criticism. We have gone through the entire picture. A country of 5.5 million people, unemployment over 10%, exports are losing steam, the construction sector is contracting, and they still didn't fall into chaos. So what is the lesson here? First, happiness does not equate to growth. For decades, the West believed in a simple equation: GDP growth, better living standards, stable society. Finland is showing something different. Their growth is currently quite low, but the level of life satisfaction still belongs to the highest group in the world. Perhaps the absence of fear is just as important as the presence of wealth. So what do you think? If the U.S. economy grows by 3%, but 30% of the population is always worried about healthcare and housing costs. Is that really a complete success? Secondly, endurance is more important than speed. Finland is not the fastest car on the highway, but they have a good shock absorber system. They built a society that can absorb shocks. Universal healthcare, stable housing. Education is widely accessible. That doesn't make them speed up, but it prevents them from flipping the car. In many places, just a few percentage points increase in unemployment can shake confidence. Here, 10% unemployment is seen as a cycle. For the older generation, this question is very practical. Do you want a rapidly growing economy that is prone to turbulence? Or a slower economy, but one that causes fewer shocks to your family? And what if a technological shock occurs? Look ahead. Artificial intelligence and automation are changing the labor market. Not in 50 years. In 5-10 years. If a country like the United States suddenly faces 10% unemployment due to technological transformation, what will the social reaction be? A small business owner in Minnesota once told me, "Americans are good at taking risks, but we are not used to a wide safety net." Finland may not be wealthier than the United States, but they may be less anxious when facing volatility. That is not blind praise. It's not one-sided criticism either, just a perspective. Long-term stability is sometimes more important than short-term victories. So in the end, Finland is not a perfect country. They are just an example of another choice. What do you think? Which model is more suitable for Europe and the US in the next 20 years? If you want to continue these frank discussions, no slogans, no sugarcoating, you can follow the channel. Because the world ahead will be full of upheaval, and the way we design society today will determine how we endure tomorrow. Finland is not immune to recession. They don't have an economic miracle. They don't live in a Nordic fairy tale either. They simply chose a different way of designing society, a system that prioritizes stability over speed, prioritizes resilience over short-term bursts. The question is not, is Finland right or wrong? The question is, if Europe and the US are entering a new decade of upheaval, from technology to geopolitics, do we want a society that grows quickly but is prone to shaking, or a slower society but less chaotic? I would really like to hear your perspective. Which model do you lean toward, and why? Please share your perspective in the comments section. And a small note, the content in this video is analytical and commentary based on public data and real-life experiences, not financial advice or investment recommendations. Do your own research and make decisions that are appropriate for your circumstances. Thank you for staying until the end. We will have many things to discuss.